Got a lot of content, so we'll jump right into it. I'm Daniel McIntoon. I'm a senior product manager at Appian in our Data Fabric group. I'm primarily responsible for our Data Fabric architecture. Today I'll be joined by Laura, who is one of my colleagues from the Data Fabric PM group, as well as Muti, who is the Director of Technology Strategy at Telus. We're going to be talking about and really showcasing how Data Fabric powers enterprise scale automation. I'll talk about what that means in a second. Before we get there, I'm actually going to talk about the conference party, though. So yeah, some people like this. What we're all waiting for at this point, now that the keynote is done, we'll be at the Wings Over the Rockies Air and Space Museum tonight. And a little history for you. This is actually located in an old aircraft hangar from the Lowry Air Force Base, which closed back in the 90s. And what's a little special about this place for me is that it's actually where my father spent the first couple of years that he served in the Air Force. And so while we're there, I plan to take an extra close look at the venue and the aircraft that are on display. And just to be clear, my dad didn't fly any of these planes. He actually was a trained dental assistant, so that was his role on the base, not nearly as glamorous as flying fighter jets, but he still jokes to this day that the only war he fought was the war on plaque and decay. So while he didn't fly these planes, he did have a lot of interest in military aircraft that he shared with me. And one of the planes I learned about from him that he used to fly in and out of the space was the SR-71 Blackbird. So if you're a military aircraft enthusiast, you probably heard about this, and that's because it was pretty spectacular. It flew at over 2,000 miles an hour at an altitude of over 85,000 feet. It was a recon plane, so on top of all the recon equipment, it had a whole bunch of capabilities designed for stealth and evasion. On top of that, it had security measures for electronically emitting signals that jammed radars and missile guidance systems. It had backup security measures for automatically self-destructing critical pieces of military technology in the event that the plane went down in hostile territory. So all around, just a really cool piece of military technology. The reason that I'm talking about it is because there's actually some parallels we can draw between what makes this plane military grade and what makes Data Fabric enterprise grade. The Blackbird was built to solve a mission-critical function in the US military. And to do that, it needed to be flexible and adaptable to be able to handle any conditions or situations that it might find itself in. It needed to be secure and have defensive measures to make sure that it could go undetected and undestroyed. And lastly, it needed the scalability and performance to be able to scan vast arrays of enemy territory while flying faster and higher than any other aircraft in the airspace. Similarly, what probably everyone in this room has in common is we're all responsible for mission-critical areas of our businesses. And when you look at the industries that Appian primarily operates in, they're generally the most highly regulated and highly sensitive industries in the world. And to operate in those industries, you really need enterprise-grade software. When it comes to data specifically, there's really a few capabilities that shine above the rest when it comes to being successful with enterprise-scale automation. Those parallel what we talked about with the Blackbird. We need to provide the flexibility to integrate and adapt to your data architecture and technology ecosystem. We need to provide the security to protect your data and your customers' data. And we need to provide the scalability to process and report on data at the massive scales that your businesses operate at. So let's talk about each of those a bit more. When we talk about flexibility, we're talking about the ability to integrate with any data system that you might need to integrate with and use that data everywhere within Appian. Appian has a robust suite of integration capabilities that allow you to connect to data wherever it is. If you have a data lake or a warehouse or a data lake house, if you're really keeping up with the latest trends and terms, if you have relational databases, which you almost certainly have for operational data, or third-party enterprise systems, or even custom homegrown APIs that your engineering teams have built. Appian allows you to connect to all these systems, but then on top of that, we allow you to build relationships between each of the different data sets in these different systems to assemble a unified data model. Quick example. Let's say we have an order fulfillment application in Appian. Our core orders data sets might be in Appian, but we almost certainly have related data sets that are relevant to the processing and reporting that we want to do on that data as well. For example, we'll have CRM data in Salesforce and potentially parts and inventory data in SAP. We might have a product catalog in Oracle and documents in SharePoint. With Appian, we can integrate with these systems, and then we can build record relationships between the different data sets to construct this unified data model. Now, your engineering team, or the team managing this application, has the luxury of viewing this data through the lens of a single unified data model. So now that you've integrated your data from all over the place, you can use it everywhere in Appian. You can use it in application interfaces where you can build beautiful reports and dashboards super easily that integrate data from all kinds of different systems. Here we have an example where we have top performing campaigns. In this report, we're grouping by the campaign data in SAP, but then aggregating over the orders in Appian and this revenue data in Salesforce. In addition to reporting, you can leverage data fabric in your processes, where you can not only read, but transact with data in real time with any of your operational data systems. And finally, you can leverage data fabric in Process HQ, where you have the power of data fabric at your fingertips for your end users, allowing them to create beautiful dashboards that they can share securely throughout your organization. And one thing that I really like to highlight here is that in addition to just building these reports, your end users can stay in the same tool and take action on that data through record actions as well. So all of this comes together to show you how the flexibility of data fabric allows you to integrate data from anywhere and use it everywhere. The next thing I'll talk about is security. When we talk about security, we're talking about both platform and application security. Platform security really refers to all of the low-level security measures that happen behind the scenes to make sure that data can be securely connected to, persisted, and transmitted throughout the platform and to your end users. Many of these capabilities are actually audited and showcased through the vast list of compliance certifications that Appian has achieved. And these compliance certifications give you the confidence to know that Appian can operate in your most highly sensitive environments, but they also serve as a representation of our ongoing commitment to enterprise-grade data security at the platform level. Now, in addition to just platform security, what really differentiates data fabric is actually our approach to application security. Referring back to our sample data model earlier, we talked about how we could unify our data through record relationships. Now we can actually extend that flexibility to secure data as well. In this example, we have a security rule. Account executives can only see order details in their regions. This sounds simple. It's a single sentence, so easy to say. But if you've ever built applications where data is spread across multiple different systems, this is actually a huge pain to implement. With data fabric, we make this nearly as easy to implement as it is to say. Using record relationships, you can secure data across the relationships, implementing your custom security filters. Now your security is easy to design, build, and maintain, and most importantly, it is applied on each and every query against your data fabric, whether it's from processes, application interfaces, Process HQ, AI agents, chats, copilots, and all of those features that we saw earlier. So we've taken on the heavy lifting of building a highly secured data platform, but we've also made it really easy for you to implement the complex, domain-specific, application-specific security rules that govern your businesses. Last thing is scalability. Appian allows you to connect to all of the high-scale data systems that your business runs on. In addition to simply connecting, we allow you to sync your data and benefit from our proprietary and patented data system, which supports both transactional and real-time analytical workloads without any manual database tuning required. This is going to save your team's time and give you the luxury of having a ready-to-go solution for analytics and transacting with your processes. And what's best yet is that in 25.1, we've really taken this to the next level. We introduced the next generation of our data fabric architecture, which is optimized for high-scale operations and performance. In addition to just being able to handle more rows of data, we've dramatically improved the performance of your high-scale workloads. Telus upgraded about a week and a half ago. Got some members from their team here who I'm just sharing these metrics with for the first time, but they're experiencing 3.5 times faster performance for their 95th percentile, their peak, slowest performing query workloads. And they're experiencing over 7 times higher write throughput for their largest write workloads. So these performance improvements and this architecture improvement really showcases how data fabric is processing your highest scale workloads faster and more efficiently than ever before. So to summarize, flexibility, security, and scalability are the pillars of our data fabric architecture. And now for the fun part, I'm thrilled to welcome Muti to the stage to talk about how his team at Telus is leveraging data fabric to power their mission-critical automation initiatives. All right.
you. Thank you, Danielle. So it's the first time I see those numbers that Danielle showed on the slide. So it's great to know that the performance of the team and the applications that they have built is really great. Danielle talked about how we're using Data Fabric to be able to pull data and integrate it from anywhere in the organization, and then be able to apply it everywhere in your processes and your workflows. What I want to talk about is expand on that concept. Actually, how are we able to have a specific use case where we use the data that we pulled into Data Fabric and create relationships between these data records to be able to orchestrate change. But before I do, I wanted to introduce myself. So my name is Muti Wali. I'm the Director of Digital Transformation and Integrated Planning. And today I want to marry these two mandates together and explain how I'm using Appian to be able to digitize the planning data and how to orchestrate the change when it comes to planning. But I don't think everybody knows who Telus is. So I wanted to kind of introduce Telus a little bit and give you a bit of an overview of who Telus is and what we do and how we operate. So Telus is one of the largest technology companies in Canada. We operate mainly as a telecommunication company. We focus on consumer services and business services across wireless and wireline. And we offer also diversified portfolio where we expand into digital health, agricultural technologies, as well as digital customer experience. We generate around $20 billion a year, and we have 100,000 employees. We cover approximately 19 million subscribers or customers, which is half of the population of Canada, just to give you an idea of size and impact. But the number I want to draw your attention to is how much investment we do on an annual basis. So $2.8 billion is our capital expenditure year over year. My team has a direct line of sight of approximately $1 billion of that amount, and that's what we manage. And I want to talk about the challenges that planning or integrated planning and investment bring when we try and understand how much money do we need in the future and what type of strategies do we need to implement to be able to be competitive in the marketplace. So our answer to the challenges of integrated planning is a system that we built in Appian called Aspire. And Aspire is meant to provide three key objectives. The first one is digitize the information. So many of the planning data exist in Excel sheets, in emails, PowerPoints. Most of you guys who work in technology would understand when it comes to planning how it's hard to bring planning data across all of the organization together in one system and be able to integrate it. A second part is how can we create relationships or interdependencies between all these planning data that comes from various teams, because they need to work with each other. The data needs to flow from one team to the other, who becomes a downstream team versus an upstream team. The data from one team becomes the input for the second team and so on. So that data flow and that relationship between the team is extremely important when we understand and iterate through change. But last but not least, we wanted to build a foundation, a digital foundation to evolve in terms of automation and AI. How can we use and leverage AI to be more competitive in the marketplace? And I want to illustrate that with an image. It's not as cool or badass as a blackbird, but I'm using a Jenga tower to explain what is the challenge of integrated planning. I've been with Telus for 15 years. I've never seen a plan from inception to execution being exactly the same. Change is the name of the game. Every time we create a plan, there are external factors and internal ones that pushes us to iterate and change the plan. Do we need to accelerate something? Do we need to reduce capital? Do we need to change because our competitors is doing something in the marketplace? So every time we create a plan, we have to change. It's hard enough to build one plan by working across 12, 20 different teams and build one plan that is competitive and efficient. Then it's even harder to iterate, because if one team changes a component, whether it's one of these blocks of the Jenga tower will collapse. And we have to start from scratch and rebuild a plan from the beginning. So with Aspire, we're meant to avoid that. We have a way to orchestrate and manage change without having to rebuild the plan every time we try to make a change or iterate. And that's what we're trying to achieve with Aspire. But before I explain how that is done, I wanted to give you an insight of how we actually do planning in an infrastructure technology company like Telus. And here is an example from a wireless planning activity. There is always a demand. There's a team that is upstream that creates the demand. How many subscribers are we going to load next year? Is the traffic going to grow? Do we have new business customers? Do we have a technology upgrade requirement that we have to go through? That demand then drives change in the network. Do we need to build new cell towers? Do we need to build small cells? Do we need to upgrade existing cell towers? That drives demand across downstream teams as well. Do we need to build space and power, switches, servers in the different central offices that we operate nationally in the network? But imagine that we build all of this, we work together and build a massive plan, which is efficient, we're very proud of it, but something happened, a change is introduced. Somebody is changing the requirements and the demand because their assumptions need to change, because we have to address a competitive threat. And we have to rebuild the whole plan from the beginning. But with Aspire, we're trying to avoid that by building relationships between all the records that each planning team creates and understanding those relationships and iterate through them. And to be able very clear and articulate about what exactly would that represent and how we actually do it, I wanted to show you a demo. So we're gonna switch to my laptop here, where I'm gonna show you a demo exactly how does this look in Aspire. So what we're looking at is a relationship diagram. You can see each one of these circles represent an icon, a team, and we're building a relationship between the parent activity, who's the upstream team that creating the activity, the demand, and the child activity, who actually is receiving the information or receiving the demand and the request and working on it. This is all in Appian right now, and this is a plugin diagram that shows you a relationship between an active and live plan. This is a 2025 plan that shows all the activities that we're doing across all the teams. Each one of these circles represent an investment. Building a tower, upgrading a tower, building a small cell. And each relationship represents what is the other team doing to be able to support that activity that the upstream has initiated. Whether it's a switch, or a base station, or a server, or a space and power requirement. And that relationship then exists in the data fabric. If I want to iterate and change a group, or an area, or a region, I'm able to identify very quickly, and in a matter of minutes, where the change has occurred and which teams are impacted by that change, and apply the change only to the team that is impacted by the change instead of bringing the whole Jenga tower down and rebuilding it from scratch. That's what we're able to do with Data Fabric. And the idea is simple as well. Not all of the records exist in Appian. Some of these records exist in external sources, whether it's other systems that we built as Telus, or other systems that we pull data from, like SAP, or ServiceNow, or Salesforce, etc. And the idea here is I can even create an automated change management. I don't have to do this manually. So if I'm able to understand the relationship between all these activities, once some of these activities drops, I'm able to reflect them and reassess automatically without having to ask a team to do it manually. And that conceptually is the idea of what we did with Aspire. And if I move back to the slides, I want to talk about what we want to do next. How can we evolve Aspire and Data Fabric to the next step? There are three components that we're looking at. We want to use AI to be able to do self-serve analytics to understand this relationship and feed AI agents with the understanding of the child and parent relationships, and be able to draw information without having to create custom reports or information flow to my executive or to the other teams. So that could be done automatically using AI by feeding and training AI on this information. A second thing we want to do is completely automate the change management process. I change the inputs, I change the demand, and the system creates a new iteration or a new plan without any manual intervention from me or from my team. And last but not least, we want to explore what we call wargaming. So imagine that you have a competitive threat, or you're changing the whole strategy. Can you let AI create plans for you? Not only change the inputs and iterate through a plan, but actually create hundreds, if not thousands of plans, and find the most efficient, the most impactful plan to be able to choose to be successful in the marketplace. So those are the three use cases that we want to evolve and determine in the future to be able to apply to the Aspire system that we have built. Last but not least, I wanted to show you, okay, we have done all of this. What actually are the efficiencies as savings that we have created? Obviously, the first thing is reducing the cycle time it takes for planning. So now we create one plan each month, where we iterate through multiple plans, and that takes 55% less time through the cycle of the whole integrated planning process. The second part is reduce a significantly number of hours it takes to create a single plan or to iterate through multiple plans. But the most important part is what we call capital misaligned, or misaligned capital. The idea here is simple. If one team makes a change, but the other teams do not react to it, there'll always be capital that's sitting aside, not being used, not being put to effect. And that capital is completely lost, either not used in time or not being efficiently put in terms of impacting the company, or being used to be invested to be able to create impact at the end of the day. So that $42 million, an annual figure that we estimated in terms of the impact of not being able to have a fully integrated plan and iterate from one plan to the other. So that's basically what I wanted to share with you. And with that, I'll hand it over back to Laura to talk about the view of how data fabric will evolve over time. Thank you, Laura.
Okay, so running at top speed, changing quickly to incorporate new requirements, new environments, all while ensuring data security. We've just seen how Telus uses Appian to succeed, and I bet his story and some of these themes resonate with you all as well. At Appian, our goal is to make sure that you have the tools to do just this. And we're data people, so we know that your data is integral to everything you do. We're continually providing you more flexibility, security, and scalability options to help you meet those challenges. But we do this the Appian way. We want things to be powerful. We want things to be fast and easy to implement. Okay, now we're getting into the little bit nuts and bolts. We're going to look a little bit at what's coming and what's new in Data Fabric with a couple little demos in between. So how is Data Fabric giving you more flexibility? Okay. As it is at Telus, and perhaps in your company as well, you probably have a list of different data sources that you want to access. You need to react quickly to changes in your enterprise's internal architecture. We know that. So that's fine. You can extend your data fabric easily, as we've seen. Beyond those standard databases we support out of the box, you can always create a connection to that shiny new Snowflake or Domo or Redshift or something else that you've got in your organization. And plus, in 25.2, you can show your organization's own custom connections right on your record creation source page so that you can provide your developers that curated set that you want them to use. Now, if possible, you're going to want to sync your data in Appian to have it ready for the best performing queries and capabilities, take full advantage of the relationships between that new Snowflake and your legacy Oracle data. To ensure that you've got all of your application security created on top of all of that sync data. And of course, as you've heard from all of the main stage sessions from yesterday and today, all those AI capabilities run on top of Data Fabric data. And of course, according to your security rules. Flexibility, that applies to syncing your data too, right? We're working to keep your synced data up to date quickly and efficiently by syncing just the changed records on a scheduled interval. Now we know that we're talking a lot about how volumes keep increasing, but we all know that we also don't want to sync our full data set every day, right? So we are working hard to bring you an incremental sync capability. So for example, syncing data from your sourced APIs, well, that's great. You get all that data into Appian, it's fast, it's flexible, you can create all your relationships on it. But what if you were able to set a scheduled increment that you choose, a schedule that you choose to go grab from your source only the changed records and have it run every so often silently in the background? Wouldn't that be great? That would be even better, right? So in 25.2, we are delivering an incremental sync capability that will apply to, at first, your JDBC and your HTTP data sources, because they are obviously the hardest to work with the full sync capability, and they will benefit most from this. But we are going to be following on shortly with the same capability for your databases. What does this look like? Okay, I set up this demo ahead of time because, I'm not that brave. We're going to move from a scheduled full sync to an incremental sync in just a few minutes. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to choose this last modified date here. I'm going to say, create my expression rule very easily. We all know that we've got that expression rule we use when we do a full sync. I'm going to create a new one. I'm going to use an existing integration. See how painfully slow this is? It only takes a minute and a half to set this up. And it seems like it's taking forever, right? Okay, so I've got this. I hit submit, done. I'm going to go ahead and batch by sequential values. You probably have all noticed your new batching options in 25.1. We're really proud of that. And you've got it all created. Now, I'm going to open up that expression. Now, what you're going to see differently if you're used to doing this before is you've got two rule inputs now. You've got a batch number, and you've got this new one called the last successful sync date and time. That's the thing you want to pass into your integration as well. So I'm going to pass in both the batch number, and I'm going to pass in the last successful sync date. Now my integration knows what data to give me. So here's the last time I successfully did an incremental sync. Give me all the records that have changed since then. Done. The very last step in our process now is just to tell how often I want this thing to run. So I'm going to go down my little drop down here. If you notice, I have a lot of options. Obviously, feedback is important, what kind of options you need. We're working to actually make that a little bit even more flexible. But in this particular time, I chose an hour. It works for me, works for my API. So now every hour, it's going to go call that integration, and it's going to get me all the changed records, sync them, and I don't have to worry about a thing. Now, you're going to say, but what happens if it fails? Okay, well, what happens if it fails is, you all know you should set your, set your last successful sync, right? Fail on sync, checkbox, done. Make sure you have your checkbox set, okay? If that even has a problem, make sure you've got that recovery sync check. Okay, box checked. Now you're set, you're good. If it does fail, the next time it'll say, give me the last 2 hours. That was the last successful sync time was still that 1 hour ago. If it runs again, it'll say 2 hours, okay? So we've got you covered. Make sure and check out all the documentation for 25.2 if you have any questions, and also, don't hesitate to ask. But I think you're gonna get a lot of value out of this if you regularly sync from APIs. All right, that's coming up in security. Now, Daniel mentioned already cloud security. Obviously, you have to have your platform secure. We've got all of those industry certifications covering you. The next inner ring, of course, is going to be how you secure your data sources. Data security is that extra level of cloud. You've got your cloud database. You've got encryption on that already, right? You can do full or partial. You can encrypt as much or as little as you want in your cloud database. And then on your data source connections, we've got OAuth 2 coming out for databases that support it, our databases that support it, and for JDBC drivers that support it as well. You've already got that on HTTP. So now you've got the full suite of OAuth 2 authentication for your data sources. Okay, now your platform is secure. Appian makes it simple to manage data security rules that control your user access. I hope you're all familiar with it and have been using record level security since it first came out, right? You have the flexibility to decide what users can see, what users can interact with, the power to implement those rules right on your data. So any combination of record or field level security will give you the complete suite of application user security. In case you have not updated to 25.1, that's going to be hopefully a game changer for you as well to be able to lock down your fields. And remember, all those AI tools that you've been hearing about today, and they've always mentioned, and I want to reiterate it, that these security rules that you set up here apply to Process HQ, not just your applications and your process, all the things that the users interact with, and your AI skills and everything else. So everything you do, you set it right on your record, right when you're creating your record in your data set. But if you didn't get it done and something changes, you go right back to your record and you maintain those rules right there, right? So no other downstream modifications you need to worry about. Okay, now another quick demo. We're going to see how easy it is to set this up. In case you've never set up record or field level security. So if you notice, I'm going to choose some records. I've also got, if you haven't upgraded to 25.1, you'll see that there are actually record level security and field level security as options on your source page, okay? So I've set up these rules. I can set up any number of rules that I want. Bang, bang, bang. And if you notice, I'm also going down multiple levels of relationships to grab the rule that I want, like the user. Okay, I can set up multiple rules here. I can say he needs to be a member of this group, member of that group. You see how ponderous this is getting? It's a minute and a half. And I'm going to set up too. Okay, so I set up field level. Now I'm going to go here and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to say he's got to be a member of this group Or you can be a member of that group, whatever, be a member of whatever groups, right? Okay. Now, once I've done this, what have I done? Now my data is not open up to everybody. Now I've established least privileged security on my data as soon as I put one of those rules on there. And in just a few minutes, really. Again, this is all can be done, managed right on your record. Okay, the third main tenet we're addressing today is scalability. And you need constant improvements in scalability, right? Because I don't know about you, but nobody's deleting any of their data. We've asked. We're doing more with our data, and I bet you are. That's why we're constantly working to increase how much data you can sync in Appian, with 20 million rows coming in 25 too. So we're kind of excited about the fact that we've been scaling so much, and also that we hear you with all that scale. We talked about incremental sync. I think that's going to be really important for you as scale gets bigger. Okay, but scalability isn't just about size, right? We need queries. We're doing more queries, more writes. We're doing greater performance. We want it all. Scalability applies to everything. So with more data to work with, sift through, create, we're bringing you better query and write performance. Now, Daniel talked a lot already about what happened here. Big improvements in 25.1, and I hope you all have been able to experience that. But we're working to do even more. So we're working to add auto scaling for those high throughput performance, and that is coming later this year. So please be tuned with that, for that, all of that. And what you're gonna do with more? Oh yeah, I bet you're really excited about this, all the stuff you've seen today, right? Excited about all the AI tools. I chose the ones that I felt was more data fabric-y for me. But of course, there's a whole suite of AI tools that everyone's been talking about. And they will be commonplace in your processes before you know it. I bet you. This time next year, you'll have implemented all of it. There's a chat component, of course, that empowers your users to ask more interesting questions. Wasn't that a great demo this morning about all those AI tools? And intelligent search, wasn't that great? You can give your users an intelligent search capability right on your application. So, flexibility, security, scalability, they're foundational to everything you need your data to do for you today. You need to pivot quickly. You need to incorporate new sources. You need to ensure your platform is secure. Your application needs to be flexible, powerful. And you need to support ever larger workloads. Oh, and the AI revolution on top of all that. So, we get it, for sure. And it's important to Appian that we support all of these goals. So, if you will, please check out all these new capabilities we talked about right here today, or anything else you've seen. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. Let me see, we got the mobile app going. Please ask your questions, because I know we have some time right now that we can actually engage and answer some questions. You can also reach out to any of us that you see out on the floor during the conference as well. So, oh my gosh, we did great. We have plenty of time for questions if you have any, but I want to thank you so much for attending this one today. I know you have choices to attend a lot of breakout sessions, so I'm so happy to see your smiling faces here with us. And I want to thank our special guest, Punti Wali from Telus, for very generously giving us time and his engaging story and presentation. And one last thing, we do have a couple of other data fabric sessions this afternoon. We've got one that's specifically digging into data and those AI tools. And we've got another one that's just specifically about process orchestration and data fabric's integration framework, which that's also awesome as well. But thank you for your attention today. And do we have any questions on the mobile app?
All right, the first question we have is, can you talk a little bit about how to best centrally manage IAM in the different systems that are connected by data fabric?
Probably have to tag team on it, because IAM is your provider, right? So, I mean, it's similar to OAuth, right? If you're gonna have an OAuth connection, you're gonna have a provider that's granting you, giving you that token. You're gonna have that time outside of this. When you set up, say, an OAuth connection, you're gonna have your token request endpoint, right? That's what you're really gonna call, and you're gonna have your everything inside of your connected system, and then it's gonna go outside to get that token authorization and come back. And I think it's the same with an IAM system, right?
Yep. Yeah, I would say, I mean, generally you're going to configure the security on a per data source basis. And when Data Fabric is syncing data into Appian, we're going to use the authentication protocols that you specify there. So we're always using whatever you configure on the connected system object.
Yeah.
All right, the next question we have is, what are your lessons learned, or what would you have done differently now with implementing Data Fabric at Telus?
Ooh.
Oh, that's actually a great question. I think one of the things that we wanted to implement at the very early beginning is to bring as many people as possible from day one. And we found that a little bit challenging, so we had to actually reduce the scope and then decide on maybe the teams that work only on wireless as the essential first off application that we wanted to build, and then bring the other teams after. I think if I knew what I knew today about Data Fabric and the ability to bring all this data together in a seamless way, I would have probably started with everybody just to make sure that we have a fully integrated plan across not just the wireless team, but wireless and wireline, instead of doing it sequentially or in phases. So phase one would be just wireless and then bring or expand to the wireline team after. So I think because of the potential ease of use and the ability to bring this data together, I would have probably brought all the teams together from day one instead of, splitting it into two phases, if you will.
Could you go into more detail on how you determine capital misaligned?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So usually when you do a change, and especially if that change is not communicated, let's say one team decided to not build towers in Denver and decided to build towers in the rest of the country. If that information is not communicated in a timely fashion to the rest of the team, some teams will have already planned and set aside capital for building central office requirement in Denver. And that information then does not change or is not really applied until we start execution. So you wasted maybe a year, maybe 18 months, that money dedicated only for a central office activity in Denver where there's no demand anymore in Denver. That means that I have to recoup that money at the last minute when I'm executing and say, hey, I have $10 million here in Denver that I cannot really execute on because the team changed their mind. Can somebody tell me where I can reinvest it somewhere else? That time lost, 18 months or 24 months in some cases, is time that you have not invested your money, you have not created an impact with. And that usually is what we call misaligned capital. And that happens really quite often. For people who have complex organization, multiple planning teams, this is not an uncommon situation or cases where you can see that teams do not communicate effectively and timely with each other, and they have to react after the fact. So we have to, roughly that is the amount that we see on $1 billion investment. $42 million is something that happens quite often, and sometimes even more than that. I think we're conservative in terms of the estimate.
Is there a plan to support streaming events like Kafka? This is actually something that we have in the works in relation to autoscale, triggering processes through Kafka events. So this is something that our engineering teams are working on. I don't think I'm allowed to give a time estimate, but it's in the works. The one thing I will say, it is something that we're thinking about for sync records as well. Can we sync data from a Kafka stream? And so if you have any feedback or want to talk about that more, we're really happy to collect that feedback and take it into account when we consider working on this in the future. Anything you would add there? I know your team is a little bit more.
It could be coming in an incremental fashion so that, say, we support a new object, called like a Kafka integration object, right? That you set up and say, this is a stream I'm listening to, and this is the process I'm going to call. And if we even go out with that, just one increment at first, think of what you could probably do with that. So say you're grabbing that and you want to store the data, write the data immediately into your cloud database. You could call write records in that process, grab that data, poof, right in there, and it'll automatically sync as well. Even if you're saying, you want to automatically sync this, but as soon as you get a process that you can call, well then kind of the sky's the limit. As long as it's something that you can do in an auto scale process, you could do anything you need to do with that message.
Yeah, one last thing. There is another session about autoscale later this afternoon. I can't remember what it's called, but it is led by Mark Bolenbach. He's a great speaker. Highly recommend attending the session and seeing what they have to say. They will be talking a little bit about the Kafka integration, I believe, so I can follow up there as well.
But active development for sure.
All right. I think with that, we're all set on questions. So really appreciate all of your time. And yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you so much.